Today we're going to start a gridded drawing using a photographic resource. And the first thing that you need to do is create a grid on top of the photograph. So I'm going to use this yardstick. The width of the yardstick is about 1 1/4 inches. And I'm going to line it up with the edge of the photo, draw a line, and then continue all the way down. I line it up with the line that I just drew, and you want to make sure you have it right on that line. Hold the ruler in a couple of places so it doesn't wobble on you, and then trace your line. And do this all the way down. And then you're going to do the same thing in the opposite direction. Line it up with the edge. Let's start on this side. Line it up with the edge of the photo. Trace your line and work your way across the whole photograph. Make sure you're working with a sharpened pencil. It makes your lines really crisp and neat. Okay, so there's my photograph, got the grid on top of it. Now I need to do a grid on top of the drawing paper that I'm going to be using. And for this one, I'm going to change the size of the grid a little bit, and I'm going to use this ruler. It's about 1 3/4 inches in width, so this grid is going to be larger than the one that's on the photograph. So again, repeat the same process, line it up with the edge of the paper and work your way down. Make sure you're lining up exactly on that line before you make your marks. Now when you draw this grid, go lightly when you make your lines. You will be erasing the grid as you work on the project, and if they're very light, it sure does make it a lot easier to erase, and you don't end up with any of those little ghost marks that are just leftover pencil marks. So very lightly, making a grid on both pieces, on the photograph and on the drawing paper. Now this drawing paper, I may have more paper than I need for the actual photograph. On the photograph, I know I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 squares across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So actually, I'm only going to need it up to that much. Okay? And then I'll change and do the grid the opposite direction. Line it up with the edge of the paper so you get a good parallel line. Make sure you're holding the ruler in a couple of places so it doesn't wobble back and forth when you're tracing that line. And then we'll need to count on the photograph and see how many squares we actually need. I bet that's going to be about enough. So if we look at the photograph, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares going down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we won't need any of this one right here. So this block is the actual block that we're going to be working in. Okay, now just like the worksheets we've been working on, I know if this is the top of my drawing that this square is this square right here, the next one over, and I want to make a judgment about where it starts and stops on the square, so right about there, and that begins the bowl. Right here, I want to make sure I'm coming about that far in on the square, and now you're actually starting to see a little bit of the lip of the bowl. Comes out like that, this white area over here. Now sometimes what you can do to make some of this easier, you can actually draw in the lines that you would be using, and you're turning it into a line drawing by doing this. And sometimes that makes it easier to see where you need to draw those lines on your squares, okay? Just like on the iPad, when we did the digital drawings, we took them in and changed them into line drawings. Well, that's the same thing you're going to do on this photograph. You're going to change it into a line drawing. So I know I'm in this square, and this marble starts right. I know it ends about here, starts here, ends here. I can make those little marks so I make sure I'm lining it up correctly. And this might be a place where you want to draw lightly also, so that you can erase things where you need to go back and correct it, especially with circles like this. I like to go back and correct the circle shape until I get more of it done. Okay, keep working on this drawing, adding square by square to get the accuracy right. Make sure it looks like the photograph.